Hey everybody, it's Tara Green here, and I'm going to talk about the full blue moon in Aquarius that happened August the 1st, 2023. Because Venus is retrograde, maybe you've noticed that things are moving a bit slower here. So this is an after the full moon, but the full moon lasts, technically for a number of days until the moon goes into the next phase. So let's look back in kind of hindsight, because hindsight is 2020. Now this was only yesterday, of course. So there's the full moon. It is at 9 degrees of Aquarius. And you can see this chart is set for Washington, D.C. So the full moon is at 2:32 p.m. That's Eastern Daylight Time. And so there you can see the moon. I'm not going to talk about the houses here because that's all relative. Okay, so the big aspect, although I've drawn all of them in, you can see that the big aspect is a square, a T-square. This is called a T-square. The sun and the moon always in opposition, complementary opposites on a full moon, being squared by Jupiter at the 13th degree of Taurus. Now we always move up a degree when we're talking about degrees or degree theories in general. So Jupiter and Taurus, we've all been under this energy since May when Jupiter entered Taurus. It's going to continue till about a year from now into May 2024. So Jupiter is the planet of expansion and opportunity. It's the good faith planet. Excuse me, in Taurus, it's the bull market, it's the stock market, it's stubbornness, it's sensuality. So really we need to get very, very grounded at this full moon. Now Aquarius is the sign, it's an air sign, of course, not a water sign. You can see its symbol looks like waves, and I always think of it as electrical energy too, which is more in line with the modern interpretation of Aquarius, ruled by the planet Uranus, which is up here at 22 degrees, also in Taurus. So moon in Aquarius, this is where, even though it's a full moon and it's a super moon, so I don't know if you got to see the moon, it was really big and beautiful. So its effects are stronger because the moon is closer to the earth right now. But, Aquarius is a dispassionate, objective sign. So you can feel all the feels and reflect on all the feels, especially with Venus and Leo right now, and get a good sense of where we're going. It would be like a good time to do a dream board, a vision board of what's been going on in your life while we're all taking stock of Venus in Leo. Okay, so the ruling planet of Aquarius is Saturn traditionally, and there's Saturn retrograde at 5 degrees of Pisces, actually very close to the fixed star of the archangel Gabriel there. It's called Fomalhaut. And so Saturn in Pisces is bringing a more spiritual, a more forgiving, a more compassionate, also much more emotional tone to the moon in Aquarius. Okay, now the modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus there, the planet of revolution and freedom. I keep thinking about Richard Tarnas talking about Uranus should be really called Prometheus, because Prometheus stole fire from the gods in rebellion. That's much more of a Uranian energy. So again, Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. It's going to continue to be there for the next number of years as well. So Uranus, right there in Taurus, is in conjunct, there's that green line there, to the south node in Libra. Now, of course, we know that the nodes have just entered Libra and Aries, moving backwards in the zodiac, and so there's 28 degrees of Libra as the south node. What we're releasing, old relationships, old imbalances, old ways of thinking about peace, relationships, how we relate to others, what others' opinions are on us. And Uranus is in a sextile, a nice supportive aspect here. All these little short blue lines are called sextiles. The planets are 60 degrees apart, more or less. And there's the planet Neptune in Pisces. Now, Neptune is also the modern ruler of Pisces, bringing in, again, the sense of compassion and idealism and forgiveness and creativity. Neptune in Pisces rules oil. Oil prices have just jumped up again. It rules viruses. It rules illusions and delusions and projections and fake news, and there's lots of that going on. So, and addictions, right? Everybody's heavily addicted to their opinions. And Uranus and Taurus, they're supporting Neptune as a sense of, even though Taurus doesn't like change, for all of the Tauruses, again, I have to call Uranus the cosmic cattle prod there, opening things up to a new way of seeing things, to a new way of feeling and sensing things, because Taurus is so embodied. It's the first sign of the zodiac. That's where spirit enters matter. So the challenge then Neptune is also what they call the higher octave of Venus. And Venus is retrograde, still sitting at her degree that she turned retrograde at a number of days ago. That's 28 degrees of Leo. And she is also in conjunct Neptune. So for these two planets, Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. Venus is human love. Neptune is higher love. Kind of an interesting aspect here. And of course, Neptune and Pluto are also in conjunct to Venus. They're sextile each other and in conjunct Venus. So again, a lot of this is really all about the message. The cosmic message here is about really reflecting, releasing, recycling, rejecting, renewing, reviewing, resting, really anything that starts with RE, reinvigorating, but really it is a time to reevaluate everything. Venus rules values, reevaluate our hearts. Leo is the shadow side of Aquarius, and Aquarius is the shadow side of Leo. Okay, so we're really needing to look at our own shadows now. That's also a big part of the retrograde. Now, this is the symbol of Venus as the goddess Inanna, the ancient Babylonian, one of the first Sumerian, one of the first known myths going into the underworld, because Venus has almost disappeared in the sky. She's going to go behind the sun and then reemerge from being an evening star to a morning star, which is called Venus Luciferis. Luciferis means the bringer of light. So we also have Jupiter squaring the sun again, like we said. So squares are not bad things. They're pressured, pressure to change, pressure to establish yourself, pressure to hold on to things, right? Because we know that things are still shifting big time. The other aspects here, Chiron, the wounded healer, at 19 degrees of Aries, also recently went retrograde. And Chiron is squaring Lilith up there at 22 degrees as well. Uranus is at 22. Lilith is at 22. So that square is where the divine feminine has been wounded. And I think that the Barbie movie has definitely brought that out into our consciousness lately in a big, very commercial way, which is really quite great. So Lilith in Leo especially refuses to compromise. She knows she's the queen. There's Mercury in Virgo at 5 degrees opposite Saturn. So this aspect is definitely in effect right now. It's very serious. We want to take stock. We want to finish, complete. Saturn is the sign of completion. Take serious any taxes, organizations, details, anything that we need to put the finishing touches on. You're going to sell a serious story. You're going to dream a new dream. Saturn is in Pisces. How can we write down our dreams? At a full moon, it's a good time to give thanks and to have compassion and gratitude for what we've learned and come through since the last full moon and even since the last new moon a couple of weeks ago. So there we also have Athena, the goddess of wisdom, also very close to Mercury. And there's Mars in Virgo. Okay, Mars is also opposite Saturn. So this is still a difficult aspect. Mars opposite Saturn, the two malefics in a very tight orb here. You could be feeling very tense. Mars in Virgo upsets our upper digestion. It's also a sense of worrying, trying to get the numbers crunched, trying to save money under pressure of, money just leaking out, debt mounting up. That's Saturn in Pisces. I heard today that the U.S. debt was also, the U.S. economy was just also brought down a few notches there, because its debt is like $33 trillion, some insane amount. Okay, now let's talk about this nice blue air trine here between the moon to Vesta. My cat is called Vesta. One of my cats is called Vesta, the root word of investments, at 15 degrees of Gemini, and also trining Ceres, the great mother, in Libra. So this is a very, the moon, always associated with motherhood here, so it's a time to rebalance the feminine, and Venus in Gemini is about investing our words, our thoughts, our ideas, and things that nurture us. Ceres is the great mother. When her daughter Demeter was abducted by Hades or Pluto into the underworld, she wouldn't let any food grow. So again, stuff about fairness in food. A lot of farmers, of course, are being forced off their land and cattle being slaughtered. This is all part of the big, cabal in politics. So what else have we got here? Pluto's at the 28th degree of Capricorn. And so Pluto is really still affecting the U.S. again, even though it's a little bit past its due date. The first Pluto return, the U.S., is when Pluto got to 27 degrees of Capricorn. That was going on for all of 2022, but it's still in effect now as Pluto makes its last closest exact aspect to that. So that's still in effect. So again, there's lots of turmoil going on in the world, in corporations, power, control, secrets, money, all of those things. Now, what you want to do is really look at Juno, the feminine form of genius, my favorite goddess that I'm writing a book about. She's also opposite Pluto there. So again, Juno in Cancer. This is the need to nurture ourselves. It's also squaring the nodes here. I didn't draw, they didn't know, but it's squaring the nodes. And Juno's also at 22, so pay attention here. How many planets are at the 22nd degree, a master number? Uranus, Juno, Lilith. So if you have any planets at 22 degrees in your own natal chart, your birth chart, then those will be more strongly affected. So Juno, the feminine form of genius in Cancer, she traditionally is what we know her as from Roman and Greek mythologies, that she's the goddess of marriage and childbirth, but her pre-patriarchal form was as the feminine form of genius. So multitasking, what your emotional needs are. The moon, all about our emotional needs. The moon rules Cancer. So you need to really spread those needs out. Cancer, one of the problems with Cancer is they don't know how to receive. So making sure that there's some balance between what you're putting out and nurturing others and what you're receiving. And again, Lilith very close to Venus here. They are going to come together in the next few days, and Venus retrograde conjunct Lilith really ignites, especially in Leo, this passion, this power, this desire, a very strong desire to, really rule from your heart, really know what your heart wants. I mean, that is part of the myth of Inanna, and not taking less than you really feel you deserve. So this is where you really get to be sovereign in your own life, in your own heart, and you don't take less than that. Okay, what else do we want to talk about here? Pluto is trining Uranus there as well. So that's, again, the forces of change are on us, the forces of movement, change, revolution. It is happening in other parts of the world. I think in one of the African states, there was just a military coup. They threw out the French. And more of that, there's been revolutions by farmers in Europe, and it's going on, but the mainstream media does not cover it. So what you want to do at this full moon, supermoon, is to get detached. Think about who's your group, who's your supporters, who can you really be on the same wavelength with mentally, who can you collaborate with. Aquarius is all about working in groups. It's all about organizations. It is about freedom. It is about revolution. It is about change. It's about high tech. How do you feel about the AI thing going on? And again, that shadow there of Leo, it's like, do you feel like you're getting noticed on the world stage? Do you have enough support from your group? So those are also important things to think about. Now, interesting enough, at this full moon, actually, I just noticed this, because it's set for Washington, D.C., the ascendant here is at the 18th degree of Scorpio, which is considered to be the most accursed degree. So something horrible is going on in Washington, D.C. there. I just want to mention that. Psyche, which is part of Psyche and Eros from the Greek mythologies, represents psychology, is at 14 Scorpio, really deep in the unconscious, opposite Jupiter and Taurus. So don't forget to listen to your body. Don't forget to listen to your gut instincts. Your guts also would be quite acting up, and they could be inflamed, and you really need to watch what you eat. Again, Juno and Cancer, eat wisely. Virgo rules the upper digestion. Aquarius rules the nervous system. So you could be feeling quite wired. Suddenly I got hit with that all of a sudden. And so, most of the planets are a lot more spread out than they have been earlier this year. There's a lot more fire going on right now. So take time at the full moon and reflect. That's what a full moon is all about. And let go of things that you started at the new moon, because the energy is now starting to withdraw. And again, while Venus is retrograde until September the 3rd, it is not really a good time to initiate things unless they're things that you're trying to finish, unfinished creative projects. You're redoing a website, something of that nature. So if you want to get in touch with me, I'm at tarottarot.com. Sending you all the best blessings.